Hey everyone, I'm back, and apparently it's already 2021, so I really want to use this as an opportunity to wish you a happy new year, but also thank those who helped me and supported me last year, and to those of you who subscribed last year. So if you're new, kick back and relax and enjoy, as I have a somewhat interesting but very useless video in store for you. We are going to be revisiting the iPhone 5C in 2021. This is the iPhone 5C in blue, which is probably the most popular color offered on this phone. There's also a green, a pink, and a yellow option. And there's also a color that I wouldn't really recommend going for, a white, which is just plain boring. To achieve these bright colors, Apple decided to opt with a polycarbonate shell, which basically means the phone was made out of plastic. This phone was essentially the previous year's iPhone 5, but with a plastic shell, which actually makes me prefer the iPhone 5. But speaking of plastic, this phone came in a really cool see-through plastic box, which is similar to the ones you'd find on an iPod Touch, and it's different from the usual cardboard-like box you get on other iPhones. The 5C was released alongside the 5S as a budget offering and kind of amounted just to be a terrible and very lackluster iPhone. Brand new, this phone costed $549 US, which is a lot of money for what you're getting, and also the 5S was only $100 more, which was far more worth it. This was actually my second phone, the first being a knockoff Note 3 that my dad brought back from a business trip from China all the way back when I was in first grade. 2 years after launch, I got the 5C as a gift from my grandma. Now on to the specs. This phone sports the same A6 chip found in the previous year's iPhone 5, has a 1.2 megapixel selfie camera and a 1.8 megapixel rear camera. The 5C took great photos for its time, but with modern flagships, those blow the 5C out of the water in terms of photography performance. But my favorite thing, 7 years later, has got to be the size of this phone. It is extremely small for today's standards, only sporting a 4-inch display, and is just extremely manageable. Unfortunately, the iPhone 5C did not get to live as long of a life as the iPhone 5S did, only getting support up to iOS 10, while the iPhone 5S made it all the way to iOS 12. Being a variant of the iPhone 5, it sports that boxy design, but being a 5C, the edges kind of curve towards the rear, which really does suit the bright colors of this phone, but unfortunately the phone can't really stand on its own. The curves toward the rear really help make the phone a little bit less painful and edgy to kind of hold in your hands, and I genuinely like the curve towards the rear design. Over 7 years later, and this phone still offers a mostly stable and usable experience. And I actually switched to this phone for a couple of days, and I genuinely enjoyed it due to that small and super manageable form factor. There's honestly just something super handy and really cool about carrying around a super small phone. And it just really makes me sad that nowadays flagships aren't offered with this sort of form factor anymore, but there is a glimpse of hope after seeing the new iPhone 12 mini, which sports a 5.4-inch display, but is relatively really close in size to the iPhone 5. But it would have been super awesome if they offered the 5.4-inch model in a Pro variant. And you gotta hear me out, this would actually be a really good move from Apple, as most of the people interested in the iPhone 12 mini are tech enthusiasts. And many of those tech enthusiasts look towards the iPhone mini and they want it, but not wanting to compromise for features, they force themselves to kind of upgrade in size to either the Max or the 6.1-inch Pro. But with the small phone, you get a really small battery, and I don't really think it would be possible next year, but this year would have been perfect, as the Pro models only have 60Hz display, so I wouldn't really see giving the Pro features to the iPhone 12 mini impacting its battery life too much. Now back to the 5C. You may be really surprised to hear this, but I get a full day usage out of this phone, and it isn't really for the reason you think. The thing is, the display is super small, so whenever I need to watch YouTube videos or watch any content, I would usually just push myself to use my laptop instead. And the facts that many apps are not supported or available to download from the App Store, as my phone is on like a much older iOS, makes me just not use my phone as much. And because there's a lack of things that I can really do on my phone, I just usually put my phone to the side and just kind of look around and just be a little bit more attentive and kind of connected to the actual world. And I think that's a really cool aspect of this phone. Now on to my verdict. This phone, 7 years later, is basically my go-to phone now whenever I just want to go on vacation or somewhere, as I'll just be less on the phone and more interactive with my surroundings, as there's just not much I can do on the phone. But also that it can literally get all the essentials done, like occasional FaceTimes, occasional texting, some calls. It can, respond to Instagram messages. You can do a lot on the phone, but not as much as if you were to have a brand new phone or something relatively new. But the real refresher was the form factor of this phone, as it's just really small and super manageable. It's just like super handy to have. I genuinely do not recommend the iPhone 5C in 2021, and if you are genuinely considering this phone in 2021, you may want to see a doctor. But if you really want that small form factor, I would suggest looking at the first gen iPhone SE, but I would be a little careful, as Apple could literally cut support for the first gen SE and also the 6S anytime now. As of right now, I think the best small iPhone you can get is either the iPhone 12 mini or a much more affordable iPhone SE 2nd generation. I hope you found this video entertaining and interesting, and if you liked it, maybe consider dropping a like, and if you really liked it, maybe consider dropping a sub, as it's free, and why not? And with that, I'm gonna let you all go and have a great rest of your day. Bye.